Thank you for that, Sammy, and to our music ministry. As I was listening to that song, I just thought back, right? Like the rainbow in the Bible being this symbol of our connection with God. And with God saying that we will always be together, we will always be one. And so what a beautiful thing to represent what we're here to celebrate today, which is a couple of things, actually. We are here to celebrate Pride Month, so happy Pride, everybody. And we're also here to celebrate Pentecost. It actually falls on the same Sunday that we're doing this, and I just love that because really what is taking place today as we celebrate both, it's really offering us an opportunity to really lean into the question. And this is a question that I want us all to be open to in this moment, and is how can we come out even more fully to our truth and then express it in the world without fear? Because Pride, right? Like Pride Month is a celebration of coming out with pride and trusting who we are and what we've come to share with the world as an individualized expression of the divine. We celebrate the LGBTQ community during Pride, but really it goes beyond that, because what we're really celebrating is love in its many forms and its beautiful forms. And we're also celebrating diversity, which are two of our core values at Unity on the Bay. But we also celebrate the willingness of individuals who may have been conditioned to not shine their light so fabulously, right? Or being told that who they were wasn't necessarily an expression of the divine, and being willing to look at that and question that and move beyond that, and being willing to let the world see all of who we are as an expression of the divine. And so whether you're part of the LGBTQ or a community or not, there is something to celebrate here, and there's an opportunity for us to really check in about how we can break through some of the ways in which we have allowed ourselves to be limited in expressing our truth, and how we may not have fully come to terms with the fullness of who we are. The experience of coming out isn't just for the LGBTQ community. It's an experience that we're all always invited into. How can I come to terms with the truth of who I am and be comfortable in sharing that with the world, regardless of what may be taking place outside of us? And it is an inside job, but it's an inside job that really allows us to become more clear about how it is that we're here to bless the world, how we are here to be in oneness with each other. Now, coming out for me as a gay person, it was about coming to terms with who I was. But more than that, it was coming to terms with who I was and recognizing that that was worthy of love, worthy of belonging, worthy of my connection with God. And so in many ways, I think that all of us are experiencing opportunities within our lives of coming out, and coming out spiritually, coming out to our own divinity, to the truth that is within us. And so maybe for me, being gay was just my soul's way of working through some of that. Some of you may also be moving through that, or you may be moving through other experiences that is really like our soul's work of just saying, here I am, this is who I am, this is the way in which I am not only made, but the expression of the divine, and be just in the assurance, right, that we're here to bless the world. And in many ways, for me at least, it was a way of stepping out of the norm, right? Like how many of us, right, find ourselves trying to push through what society says is the norm and really live into who we are, and that may be outside of those lines. And in many ways, we're being invited to color our lives outside of the lines. And so how are we able to push through the norms? For me, when I came out, it was like, okay, I questioned it. And through questioning being outside of the norm, it allowed me to question all the other areas of my life. Do I believe this? Is this who I am? Is this just conditioning? Are there parts of me that I still haven't fully allowed myself to live into? And it's still a question that I move through, right? Every time that I'm in fear, every time that I minimize who I am, every time I question if God is working itself through me, it's an opportunity to move beyond that and to really lean into coming out spiritually. Because the world is really seeking for us to be more authentic expressions of the divine. So how were you authentically made as God in the world? And how can you more fully not only come to terms with it, but celebrate it? And celebrate it in big ways, in ways in which it allows others to recognize that there is divinity within them also. Maybe there's still parts in your lives where you are playing it small, where you are not claiming your own divinity and your truth, your worthiness, your sacred worth. And so this is the time to really check in on that and live proudly in our authenticity as the expression of the divine. Maybe there's some areas in our lives where we're not fully ready to be brave and courageous and share with the world. Maybe we're not ready to be vulnerable with it. Maybe there are visions and dreams that we have not allowed ourselves to fully bring into not only expression, but maybe even dream and envision. And so this is really the work that we are all here for. I love Brené Brown says that owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. What is your story? Who are you here to be? What are you here to be? As we celebrate Pride Month, and then we have on top of that celebrating Pentecost, which is when we really commemorate where the Holy Spirit came upon the apostles after Jesus had died, right? And they were in fear, huddled up, not sure where to go, what to do. And Pentecost is the moment where they just opened themselves up to the Holy Spirit to guide them, to inspire them. And the Holy Spirit showed up as these tongues of fire upon them, bringing a greater sense of passion, a greater sense of trust, and a greater sense of direction about how they were to be out into the world, how they would be able to share the good news. And here's the good news about the good news. We are the good news. Each one of us here is the good news of God. Each one of us that are gathered today and around the globe today, we are the ways in which God expresses through us, expresses into the world. And so we are the ways in which the good news are lived out for others to experience. And within us truly is the clarity, the commitment, and the courage for us to lead the lives that are full of the passion and the truth that was experienced by the apostles on Pentecost. We just have to become more open to it. Like the Daily Word today said, the light of truth shines in my heart. The light of truth shines within us. As we more fully recognize it and allow ourselves to embody that, we recognize then that that in itself is our rock. That is what we can lean on, the light that is already within us. And that lights the way, and it brings light into all the corners within our hearts, within our minds, that we may not have fully embraced yet. So what areas of your life are calling for you to embrace more of the gifts, the blessing that you are? The foundation by which we spring forth into the world is our truth. How do we connect to it? How do we allow it to be so? It takes courage. It takes boldness, as many of us have experienced when we come to terms with who we are and we start going out into the world, recognizing more fully that we are worthy of all that we have come here to be and experience. It takes a certain level of boldness, right, to push beyond the limits that we have placed on ourselves, the limits that we may have felt conditioned into. But the courage and the strength to move beyond that fear is already just like that light within us. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, it says, God says to us, I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Christ is with you wherever you go. Christ is with us. Christ is as us. Can we feel worthy of that? As we talk about coming to terms with our own spirituality or the spiritual sense of who we are, that's the question. Can we come to terms with recognizing and knowing that the Christ Spirit lives in and as us, and that we are worthy of being its expression? We are worthy of feeling the gifts and the blessing that it is in our lives, and that we are worthy of unleashing that Christ presence from inside of us and moving it out into the world. Owning our worthiness is really about recognizing our sacredness, to really step into us as sacred expressions of the divine, to being that very essence of God, that wherever we go, to know that God is with us. Why? Because God is as us. And so no matter the places that we may move through, the places that many ways we have allowed ourselves to play small, or the places where they wanted or other individuals wanted us to play small, that we have the courage to stand in our truth, come to terms with who we are, and move it out into the world. But it's a process, right? It's the coming out process is a process. And it's a process that can take a long time because it's a continual thing that a lot of us have to move through. But part of the process I was sitting with this is, first and foremost, before coming out, we got to come to terms with who we are, right? We got to know ourselves, and we got to embrace ourselves, know and embrace our truth. Then we have to start affirming it. We have to start really allowing ourselves to stand in that truth and affirm, find affirmation around us. Many individuals, when they were coming out as LGBTQ, had to find safe spaces where they were affirmed. So whatever it is that we are coming out to or from, what are some of the safe spaces that we are creating? Being a part of the spiritual community, right, where we get affirmed for who we are, is a part of it. But also, what are we doing inside of us, right? Because it's great to have the affirmations come from outside of us, but we got to take it in. We got to not allow that monkey mind when we get affirmed for our truth to say, oh no, right? And still have our internal issues. And so what are you doing? What are we doing to affirm our truth? When we really come to terms and embrace our own Christhood, can we stand in that and affirm it? And affirmations, right? Like to be able to recognize that we are children of God and to speak to that to ourselves over and over again. Coming into terms with our truth, in order to do so, we really have to then move out into the world, right? Like, so we come to terms with it, we embrace it, we affirm it for ourselves, and then we share it with the world around us to really embody it. And we can't be scared of being in the question, who am I? We have to really ask ourselves moment by moment, who am I? What am I? As Marianne Williamson reminds us, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. So what does it mean to be a child of God? It means being an expression, an individualized expression of spirit. And it's not something that we can just intellectually get. I love the intellect. So I study, I read, and the intellect or understanding it intellectualized way can support us. But we really just have to experience it. And that's through prayer, through meditation, through sitting with the questions and just allowing the answers to come up. I love Elizabeth Sand-Turner says this: intellectually, we know that God is all power, but we are not fully aware of God's power until we feel it within ourselves. And so asking ourselves to really sit with that, to not only understand it intellectually, but allow it to fill our very being. And so what are the things that you might not be fully embracing that are already within you? The power of God, the strength, the light, the joy, the harmony, the peace. Whatever those attributes of God are that you may not fully be embodying in this moment, can you be with that and just take a moment to try to experience it within you, to call it forth in prayer and in affirmation? speaking words like, I am worthy, I am sacred, I am light? How are we affirming our truth moment by moment when we have a tendency to play it small or allow ourselves to not fully engage with all that is within us? And affirmations are just these little simple and concise, phrases. They're not, prayers to change God. They're words to remind us of our truth and change the way in which we are interacting with the inner voice, the critic, that limiting thought, that self-doubt, or those thoughts of unworthiness, and also the world that tells us that God may not be present fully every moment within each and every one of us. Now, like many of us who came out, affirmations and being affirmed in our truth, and is an important part of the coming out process. And it's an important part of us owning all of our truth. So how are we doing that? How are we affirming our place as the presence of God? And then once we do that, once we really allow ourselves to be fortified by the words that we tell ourselves, by the spaces that we create for ourselves that will allow us to shine more fully, then the question is, what do we do with that, right? Like, how do we share it with the world? After the apostles had learned truth through the life and experiences that they had with Jesus, after Jesus' death, they knew the truth, but they were in fear. They weren't sure where to go next, how to bring the good news out, how to really embody it and allow what was later called Christianity, but at those times it was called the way, to be out in the world. Not just knowing our truth, but living it, expressing it, sharing it, and making it more part of our experiences, right? But from Acts 2, we learn, when the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like a rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as a fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them ability. They put the truth in the world. And they did it in a way that was, in many different tongues, still understood by those that were around them. It didn't matter the ways in which people were different. What was really true was that authenticity, that integrity with the power that was within them, and the truth of their being was what connected them and was allowed them to be in the world. And so they knew their truth, but they needed to start going out and living it and sharing it with others. How are we doing that? The second part of that quote from Marianne Williamson actually tells us that when we shine our light, what we're really doing is inviting people to shine theirs even more fully. She says, and so we let our own light shine. We unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. The apostles, what they did in those moments of fear, they listened to truth. They listened to Jesus, who told them, go, be together and pray. In moments where we question who we are, what we are, can we bring harmony to our own soul by just taking a respite, by parting away, taking a step back, breathing into it, and being one with God, praying, affirming, holding our truth. Brian McLaren says, in a world full of big challenges and time like ours, we can't contain the Spirit in a box. We need to experience the mighty rushy wind of Pentecost. We need our hearts to be made incandescent by the Spirit's fire. Today is a day where not only can we own our truth and come out to who we were always meant to be, but to do so with passion, with purpose, with knowing that we were made to shine brightly, for we are that light that comes out into the world. The power that we have in this time and place is the power that is within us. We're at a moment in history when all of us really are invited to step up and have the courage to own what we already are and what we realize we were created to be out of the divine plan. It's a divine plan thing that we own more of who we are, that we come to terms with our truth and with our reality, and moving from a place of fear and self-doubt to a place of worthiness and sacredness. The moment we do that is the moment that not only we uplift ourselves and are able to engage in the world in new and powerful ways, but it's the time that we invite others to engage with us and the world in new and powerful ways. We need to really tap into the deepest essence that transcends our fears and lives lives of courage. God is at hand. Heaven is in our midst. We just have to be open, hands towards actions, allowing heaven that is within us to shine more fully outside of us. And that only happens when we recognize more fully not only that we are worthy of God's love, but that we are God's love. Not only that we are worthy of having abundance and prosperity in our lives, but that we are the expressions of abundance and prosperity. Not only when we come to terms with the fact that God is living through and as us, but that God is living through and as us as part of a divine plan that will uplift all of humanity. It is time for us to claim our worthiness, to live lives of courage, with strength, with passion, with a knowing and a coming to terms with the truth of who we are. This is the time, this is the moment, and this truly, as the apostles went out into the world to express, is the way. I want to leave you with Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8, which says, "For once you were darkness, but now in the Lord you are light. Live as children of light." Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Juan, for that really inspirational message. We are all coming out, and we're coming out into our truth. And I got to tell you, I loved how you relayed the message in so many different ways. As personally, as a cisgender, heterosexual woman, it really reminds me, though, that we always are coming into our truth in different ways as our life unfolds. So as we grow, we step into our truth. We affirm who we are. We live into that truth. And that's just a process and a cycle that we continue to go through, no matter what your sexual orientation is. So thank you for that. That's what I got from that message. Did you get something from that message? Yes? Do you have something to be proud of? Right. Do y'all have something to be proud of? It's Pride Month. Did you get something from that message or what? Am I the only one? Okay, absolutely. All right, so as we move forward into our gratitude giving opportunity, I want to share with you, before this moment of giving, I want to make sure that you know about our most popular test. All right. I want to make sure that you know about our most popular program that is starting up again tomorrow. So this is really important. It's so popular because over the years, it has increased the income of our community to the tune of $360,000. Let me say that again. $360,000. Listen. Abundance is our God-given birthright, and the Unexpected Income Program supports you and remember that on a daily basis. I have taken this program several times over the years, and I attest to it fully. Enrollment is free, y'all, free. And with it, you get access to weekly prayer calls, which are amazing, monthly prayer circles, and weekly meditations, all to increase your income, all designed to increase your income, in case you missed it. So I want you to make sure that you sign up. It is free. Our first prayer call is tomorrow morning. So head on over to the website to enroll and look for the Unexpected Income Program and look for unexpected income in your life. Okay, so let's give you all a moment to prepare your gifts in your offerings. If you'd like to do so by going green, you could text the word give to the phone number that's on your screen. It's 833-245-5645. And you could also request an envelope if you're in the building or donate online. Let's have a moment of sacred silence while we prepare our offering. Okay, let's bless these gifts by saying our blessing together. Divine love that I am blesses all that I give and all that I receive. It feels so good to give, especially when you see your giving in action in so many ways. So let's take a moment to bless the children in the world, the children of our community, the child inside of you. Bring your hands together, create some energy, and extend them forth and say, children, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, we behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things. I'm just going to send a little extra blessing to my child, Evan, who is at home with the flu. I know. So, and all the other kids who are not feeling well today. Remember that we are here to pray with you. So you can, as our prayer chaplains come forward, you can find any of them to connect with and ask for prayer for support, prayer of gratitude, or uplifting, and anything else that you need. They are here to support you. And it's my pleasure to welcome Reverends Juan and Anna up to the platform to close out our service.
Well, thank you again, all of you, for being with us this morning, for just being out and proud with who you are and letting your light shine. And I also just want to once again welcome Anna to Unity on the Bay, and we're just so grateful that you are here shining your light also with us. I don't know if you have some words for the community now.
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to join this community. I believe that I've been divinely guided to this place, and I look forward to just sharing the spiritual journey together so that we may really come out all the way and be the full expression of the Christ that we're meant to be. I'll be hanging around here. If you want to say hello, I would love to get to meet you. So thank you very much. And to all of you online, thank you too.
Beautiful. With that, let us stand so that we can affirm our prayer for protection and follow that with our peace song. So let us affirm together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.